Good evening to one and all gathered here. Wishing you all a very wonderful evening. We request Sri A.M.M to inaugurate by unveiling the flag before we enter the venue for the event. We now request Director Sir, Professor Mahesh Manchakula, Professor Ravindra Gettu to join with Sri Alagappan to capture this moment.
Mask down.
Yes, mask. That's okay, sir.
Thank you all for cooperating with us. Please come inside. We now welcome all of you to our A.M.M Arunachalam Auditorium.
Please come. Mahesh, bring them in. Sir, Mahesh.
Good evening to one and all present here and those who will join us virtually for this inauguration ceremony. I'm Angelina Ratish, working with Alumni and Corporate Relations team. I feel humbled to MC this event. It is a great pleasure that we have eminent dignitaries present here. Our distinguished chief guest, Sri M.A. Alagappan, family members, and members of Murugappa family. Our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, and all our deans. And Ms. Jane Prasad, our registrar, Shri D. Chandrasekhar, and Srimati Alamelu, and Shri K.K. Raman from our IIT Madras Alumni Charitable Trust, who have gathered for the inauguration of the A.M.M. Arunachalam Auditorium, named after our former chairman, Board of Governors, IIT Madras, Shri A.M.M. Arunachalam. We sincerely thank Shri M.A. Alagappan and the Murugappa Group family for their continuing support to IIT Madras. We now request Srimati Priya Sundaram, Senior Vice President, CSR, Office of Institutional Advancement, to deliver welcome address on this occasion.
Good evening all, and on behalf of IIT Madras, I am very pleased to welcome each and every one of you to this wonderful occasion. It gives me great pleasure to invite all of you to this inaugural ceremony of the A.M.M. Arunachalam Auditorium here at the Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, or ICSR building at IIT Madras. We cordially and heartily invite and welcome our guests, Shri M.A. Alagappan, Chairman A.M.M. Foundation and Advisor Murugappa Group, who is also our chief guest for this evening. Shri M.M. Murugappan, Chairman Carborundum Universal, and all the family members of the Murugappa family. We welcome each one of you to IIT as well as to this wonderful and joyous occasion. A warm welcome to Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy, Director IIT-M, Professor Ravindra Gettu, Dean Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, or ICSR, and Professor Mahesh Panchagnula, Dean Alumni Corporate Relations. Once again, a very warm welcome, and have a great evening all of you all. With that, I hand it over back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Srimati Priya, for that warm welcome. We now request our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, to welcome and honor the chief guest, Shri M.A. Alagappan. Thank you so much, Professor. We now request Professor Ravindra Gettu, Dean Center for Industrial Consultancy and Sponsored Research, to share his thoughts on this occasion. He is the creator behind the pleasant ambience at the ICSR building, an aesthetically structured courtyard complemented with beautifully ornamental potted plants. A complete wooden seater placed outside is his brainchild from our IIT-M Central Workshop. We now request Professor Ravindra Gettu to kindly address the gathering.
As you have heard, the ICSR building is one of our flagship buildings, and we have this wonderful conference facility. Now we've added a jewel, which is the A.M.M. Arunachalam Auditorium. And I'm really very thankful to Shri M.A. Alagappan, Shri M.M. Murugappan, and the entire Murugappa family for giving us this pleasure. And for those who've been here before and have come now, you can already see that there is a change. The auditorium is much more embellished, fits very well in what is our conference facility, and I'm sure that after all this pandemic, I think this is one of the occasions we are seeing so many people. So after the pandemic, this is going to be used very much. Thank you very much to the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ravindra Gettu. Thank you very much for that insightful address. We now request Professor Mahesh Panchagnula, a passionate IIT-M alumnus who is keen on the growth and development of the institute and Dean of Alumni and Corporate Relations, to address the gathering about the 3 generations of relationship between Murugappa and IITM.
Good afternoon. I want to start by welcoming family members of Sri A.M.M. Arunachalam and the Murugappa Group family to this inauguration event. We are all very proud to be associated with Sri A.M.M. Arunachalam in this form once again, some 40 years after he served as the chairman of our board. The chairman of the Board of Governors is a very important position. Along with the director, the two of them help shape the future directions of an institution such as ours. And Sri Arunachalam was the chairman of our board during some very crucial years, during the years of an IIT when it was beginning to become a star institution nationally. Prior to that, the JEE was just another exam that students took. But right around the late 70s is when the exam took on a life of its own, and IITs came to be known nationally. Even prior to that and after that as well, during the early 80s, there were several technological advances that came out of IITs in general and IIT Madras in particular that made an impact on the national stage. So Sri Arunachalam was a leader of this institution during those very crucial years. In fact, as I was looking through some of our heritage records, right around the time when he was beginning to step down as the chairman, or during the last few years of his chairmanship, was when the proposal to go from a 4-year BTech to a 5-year from a 5-year BTech to a 4-year BTech was kind of being actively discussed. As it turns out, 1986 is when the first 4-year BTech class graduated. So it was around this time when the proposals were actively being discussed, and I'm sure he was very much in that mix of discussions to help shape not just our thinking at IIT Madras, but nationally, because this was a move more or less across the country. Beginning with Sri Arunachalam's association with IIT Madras, we have benefited immensely from an association with the Murugappa Group for many decades now, going both ways. The Murugappa Group has been active in hiring our graduates, and I've interacted with several of our graduates who work with the Murugappa Group of companies, and we've benefited from their advice, counsel, and partnership in several industry relevant discoveries as well. In this whole process, I'm sure it's been a two-way beneficial relationship, coming all the way to the recent years when we have several of our well-wishers from the Murugappa Group. Sri Murugappan serves on our advisory board. Velayan is actively involved with several faculty members, mentoring them on projects. Sri Murugappan is also actively involved with our incubation cell, advising several startups in their growth process. And having a large industry, diversified engineering conglomerate in the backyard of a technology institution like ours is a jewel that we cherish. That sums up, in my mind at least, the relationship between the Murugappa Group and IIT Madras. Two institutions that are here to stay and here to together make an impact. Thank you very much for furthering that association in the form of this endowed auditorium in the name of Sri A.M.M. Arunachalam, and we look forward to many more decades of a mutually beneficial relationship. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor, for that highly informative talk. It is amazing to know the bonding and the long journey. We now request our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, to deliver his address on this occasion. Professor, we would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you for recently being bestowed with the prestigious Voice and Data Special Jury Award for your brilliant and creative contribution to the Indian Telecom Center's 5G standard. We request you, Professor, to deliver an address on this occasion.
Very good evening to all those assembled here. Indeed, this is one of the first of the few functions that we have, physical functions that we've organized after a year. There was a small one last week or 10 days ago where we opened a studio for our online education program, which was supported by some alumni as well as a company. So this is the second one. So it feels nice to be among people again, among friends, among well-wishers. In particular, this particular function is very, very special because I think the Murugappa Group as a group of companies as well as many, many members of the Murugappa family have been very closely associated with the Institute. Of course, sort of the crown jewel of that association is the board chairmanship that was held by Shri A.M.M. Arunachalam, but several others. Mr. A.M.M. Murugappan, as mentioned, is very closely associated with us. He's on the advisory board for the chemical engineering department. He advises a lot of startups in IIT Madras. He's on the board of the research park, and I personally have reached out to him on so many occasions for his counsel and advice. So, and then we have an alumnus of our institute, Mr. Velayan. The senior Velayan has also been involved with us in many things. And I think it was last year or year before last, I forget, when one of the either Republic Day or Independence Day, I was recollecting that around the time this institute was born, 59, that period, 59 to 65, 66, was when a large number of engineering-based companies were, factories and companies were set up in Chennai, around Chennai. If you just look at the date lines for so many of these firms, the auto firms, and I'm sure the Murugappa Group companies also, some of them, were all set up at that time. This, of course, due to the sort of, you can almost say, zeal, like efforts that were put in by certain members of government at that time, most notably Mr. Venkatraman, Mr. Subramaniam, so many others. And they were just coming up around 61, 62, 63. You see the dates in which many of those companies and factories were opened. And for an engineering institution that was aspiring to, hit the high notes, do everything at a global level in terms of quality, this was a very important thing because engineering cannot function in an oasis. So the fact that so many companies were coming up here, so many factories were being set up here, many of our early graduates actually went into these companies and rose to the top positions in these companies. That also is very clear if you just look at many of them are retiring now, but the 60s. 70s, many of our graduates went abroad. The sort of emphasis of students changed. They wanted to go for research. But a lot of our students, graduates in the 60s, went to these companies. So there's a very important period in which this institute immediately played a role in the local industrial ecosystem. And the Murugappa Group is a very, very important part of that ecosystem. They have led from the front in terms of focusing on engineering, challenges in engineering. Many of their companies have worked very hard on everything from small improvements, process improvements, to technologies to really improve efficiencies, improve quality, and compete with the best in the world. And in many of those endeavors, we have IIT Madras faculty. IIT Madras has partnered with them. They have reached out. We have partnered with them. We have learned a lot in the process. Even in the last 10, 15 years, we have worked on, hi Gary, you want to sit down? We worked on technologies to, do diamond coating of tools, to improve surface finish, and so many other things. I mean, I'm just telling you one or two things that come to my mind, but this is an enduring relationship. So, in addition to the mentoring and the sort of counsel that we get from senior members of the family whenever we reach out to them for our startups, for our departments, and so on. And of course, the kind of overall guidance that we received from Mr. Arunachalam when he was the Chairman Board of Governors, we have also done things together because we are learning. You know, the institute is learning how to build technology, how to build new, how to come up with world-class engineering processes, engineering products, and we cannot do this in isolation. We have to do this working with industry. And among the group companies that have been very active with us in this is the Murugappa Group. And so this is a very nice story where the institute grew. In the same period, these companies, just before that and in that period, a lot of companies were set up who have also grown tremendously. And in many cases, we have worked with them, learned from them, and contributed in whatever way we can. So this relationship between the Murugappa Group is multi-dimensional. We have the individual relationships with the members, and it's mostly one way. We have received a lot from them. But as an institute, we have worked with their companies and hopefully contributed but also learned a lot. And this is, I see this only growing, and therefore I'm very, very happy that today we are able to, in a small way, commemorate this long enduring relationship by naming this auditorium after Shri A.M.M. Arunachalam. We're very happy that his son, who's the Mr. Alagappan, who's the chairman of the foundation, is here today. We are very grateful to them for a very generous endowment they have made in connection with this event, and also very grateful to all the family members. So nice to see so many people, especially all the ladies, to have taken the trouble despite the pandemic, despite the increase in cases, to come here today and be with us. It's a relationship that we really cherish and we want to grow. I'm sure that the members of the family will continue to help us. One of the leading industrial families of Chennai continue to help us and help us grow, and hopefully we'll be able to do interesting things for India and for the world with them, and take new technologies, new processes, new products to the world market, to the Indian market and the world market in partnership with them. And I want to once again reiterate our gratitude, and we really believe that we have gained a lot by this, even by this naming. This really adds luster to this facility, and everybody who comes in here and waits for the event to start will wonder what Mr. Arunachalam had to do with the institute. They will read this. This is really important for us. So I really thank the family, thank Mr. Alagappan, thank everybody, Mr. Murugappan, Mr. Vele, and everybody for this generosity, and I look forward to several decades of enduring relationship between the institute and the group, both at the individual level and the companies in the group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for explaining about that enduring relationship with the Murugappa family and IIT Madras. And we thank all the family members, especially all the great ladies from this family for present here. We now kindly request Shri A.M.M. Murugappan to say a few words on this occasion.
Director Bhaskar Ramurthy, Deans Ravindra Gettu and Mahesh Panchagnula, members of the faculty and staff of IIT, my uncle, Mr. M.A. My aunts who are here today, Mrs. Alagappan, Mrs. Murugappan, and Mr. A.M.M.'s daughter, Mrs. Valli Alagappan, and members of the Murugappa family and of the foundation. It's indeed a great honor for all of us as family to be here this evening at the naming of the A.M.M. Arunachalam Hall and to witness my uncle formally inaugurating it, as also making the endowment. IIT Madras and the Murugappa family and the group enjoy a very unique relationship. As Professor Ramurthy, Ravindra Gettu and Mahesh mentioned. And this has been certainly accentuated by the chairmanship of Mr. Arunachalam more than 4 decades ago. But more importantly and interestingly, Bhaskar, I'm not sure whether you know, the relationship with IIT was even before Mr. Arunachalam. And it's a very interesting relationship. Professor Sengupta was the director here. And Mrs. Sengupta was a great friend of my grandmother's generation of the family. Thus, many of my family, my grandmother, my aunts, and maybe even still some, come to the IIT temple. And this was started, I guess, more than 50 years ago. And I was trying to recollect this. But of course, I know a lot of my family would still like to come to the temple, but when IIT opens up. So this happens till this day. And this has also been further catalyzed to a much closer association by Mr. Arunachalam. And further, we have many amongst us. We have Belen Subaya, who has been a student here at the Department of Civil Engineering. Late Mr. M.V. Murugappan, a civil engineer in his own right, would often be consulted by Professors Raju, Professors Kalyan Raman, and he would consult them on civil engineering and structures. A lot of research activities across various departments, metallurgy, mechanical engineering, material sciences, chemical engineering, mathematics, chemistry, civil engineering, biotechnology, these are ongoing programs which many companies of the Murugappa Group have been associated with and continue their association with IIT Madras. We've also had the privilege of supporting the Center for Nanofunctional Materials, also with even the humanities and social sciences, particularly the Department of China Studies. And more recently, in the press, has been the support to student projects. And what's interesting is on the Hyperloop Mobility Project, we've had the opportunity to support, and this Hyperloop team was part of the finalists of the Hyperloop initiative, which was judged by Elon Musk. Of course, they didn't make it, but the fact they made it to the finals and the fact that they had the TI logo on their T-shirts, it was indeed a great pride, not only for IIT Madras, but also the Murugappa Group. Quite apart from all this support, a lot of our people in the Murugappa Group have been involved in the career advancement, in their respective career advancement programs. Many of them have received their master's degrees, many of them have received their doctoral degrees, and a lot serve on the academic and advisory boards, and also with the research park, as was mentioned before. So this process is still evolving. We're all still learning. And I guess as this evolves, both businesses and IIT, the transformation of both our institutions to resolve problems, creating and embracing new technologies, is an ongoing process which is very vital to the development of progress of both the academic and the business institution. So naming this hall after our patriarch and a visionary is a symbol of great significance. What it signals to me, it signals a larger worldview that academics and industry need to have. We need to work closely with each other in order to create a better world for posterity. So long may this association continue, and thank you all for this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that enlightening speech. We sincerely thank you for your guidance for this big day. And thank you so much for that wonderful story you told about your grandmother. And I think that says the legacy of all the women of this family. Thank you so much. We now request Ms. Sujata, Vice President, Office of Institutional Advancement, to say a few words about our chief guest.
Good evening, everyone. It is indeed an honor for me to talk about Mr. Alagappan in this August assembly. Thank you for this opportunity. Mr. M.A. Alagappan retired as the Executive Chairman of the Murugappa Corporate Board in 2009, a scion of the Murugappa family, one of the oldest and most distinguished business families of India. He has from an early age been a dynamic business manager with strong entrepreneurial traits, equipped with vast experience and knowledge in managing diverse businesses. Sri Alagappan has been actively involved with several leading industry associations. He is the Honorary Consul of Hungary in India for the Southern region. He is a past president of the United Planters Association of Southern India and AIEO and the Southern India Chambers of Commerce and Industry. Sri Alagappan takes keen interest in social welfare and is a managing trustee of the A.M.M. Foundation that runs schools and hospitals across India and is a trustee of the A.M.M. Arunachalam Trust. He is also chairman of United Way Chennai and a board member of United Way India, a part of the United Way worldwide network dedicated to community-friendly initiatives in the fields of education, healthcare, and creating equal opportunities and financial stability to the differently abled. He serves as a member of the governing body of the Cancer Institute, a public charitable voluntary institution dedicated to cancer treatment, care, control, and research. Sri Alagappan is a tennis enthusiast and has played a key role in the development of the game in our country when he served as president of the Tamil Nadu Tennis Association and vice president of the All India Tennis Association for many years. He is a commerce graduate from the University of Madras and has a postgraduate course degree in management studies from the University of Aston in Birmingham. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to meet Mr. Alagappan and to welcome him to our campus. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sujata ma'am, for that wonderful introduction. May we now request our esteemed chief guest on this occasion, Sri M.A. Alagappan, to grace this gathering with his address. A scion of the Murugappa family, one of the oldest and most distinguished business families in India.
Thank you, Ms. Sujata, for the introduction. Professor Ramurthy, Dr. Mahesh Panchagula, Professor Ravindra Getty, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I'd like to thank Professor Bhaskar Ramurthy for proposing to name the auditorium after my father, Sri A.M.M. Arunachalam. My father was the chairman of the Board of Governors of this institute from February 1978 to February 1981. It's interesting to note that during his period, the new television laboratory was set up at the electrical engineering department. Television at that time was just gaining popularity, and it's no wonder that there was a research laboratory set up for it. It was also during this period the system of staff evaluation was introduced. I do not have much recollection of my father's involvement in IIT, except as chairman. One would call him a pioneer industrialist, not only for Tamil Nadu, but also for the entire country. The country got its independence in 1947. My father, along with his elder brother A.M.M, laid the base for what is now a conglomerate of companies. In 1948, the two brothers set up TI Cycles plant in Ambattur, which was then full of rice fields. One can say that Ambattur was developed by these two brothers. Till 1965, my father worked with his brother to grow the group, which was then a conglomerate of businesses with Tube Investments, Carborundum, Coromand Engineering, Newambadi Estates, and Triton Insurance. After my elder uncle passed away, my father, along with his elder cousin, M.V. Arunachalam, nurtured the growth of the group. It was during this period that the group had a record of takeover of companies. We did a total of 17 takeovers. The two large takeovers were EID Parry and CW's India. EID Parry was 1.5 times the size of our group when we took over. It also brought varied products to the group. The group consistently kept growing, and at rupees 40,000 crores turnover is a significant group in the country now. What we know today as corporate social responsibility was practiced by our family way back in 1924. My grandfather believed that if we earn money, we must also spend on the community in which we live in. He started a hospital in our village in 1924, which gave free medical consultation as well as free medicines to the people of our village and the surrounding villages. In 1953, my uncle and father felt that we should formalize our responsibility to the people and created a trust by the name of A.M.M Charities Trust. Today, the trust runs 4 schools, 5 hospitals, 1 polytechnic, and a fair amount of money is given as scholarships. In the last 5 years, we have created a category of Murugappa scholars. Here we choose students from very poor backgrounds and who have excelled in their school to continue their college education, where we pay their full college fees and also hostel fees in most cases. Today we have 237 Murugappa scholars. Apart from this, we also operate 4 mobile medical vans to take healthcare accessible to remote villages. We also help in funding needy organizations. The name has changed from A.M.M Charities Trust to A.M.M Foundation and continues the ethos of the founders. Knowledge and economic development has always grown together. And today's fast-paced world of ideas, that linkage has become even stronger. As our country aspires to make in India, so too we aspire to develop in India and invent in India. Only then can the businesses that make in India also be globally competitive. While businesses are constantly seeking to innovate in terms of technology, the academic world has a multidisciplinary expertise that can be harnessed to accelerate the development of new technologies. In this context, IIT Madras, through the IC and SR Center, has been a pioneer in facilitating and fostering the links between academia and industry and creating positive results for all stakeholders. The IC and SR Center collaborative approach has helped in finding solutions to complex technical and techno-commercial challenges in a wide range of areas and with a wide range of partners. These collaborations offer the faculty and the student excellent opportunities to apply and hone their knowledge on real-world problems for the benefit of society at large. Thus, I'm delighted that the Murugappa Group is able to be a part of and support in a small way the Centre's sterling effort in advancing industry academia cooperation in India. I congratulate the ICNSR Center and wish them continued success in their future endeavors. And thank you all once again.
We thank you, sir. We thank you for that detailed report of the Murugappa family, of all that Murugappa family has done, and also the social impact the family has created. We sincerely thank you for your generous contribution and for gracing this inaugural function with your presence, along with the Murugappa family. We now request our esteemed chief guest, Shri M.A. Alagappan, to present the ceremonial check to our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your generosity and magnanimity. We now request our director, Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, to present the memento to Shri M.A. Alagappan. Thank you, Professor. Thank you for giving that memento and for posing for the photograph. We now request our Dean, Professor Mahesh Panchagnula, to present a family treasure to Shri M.A. Alagappan. Thank you so much, Professor. We now request Shri Joseph Thomas, Vice President, CSR, Office of Institutional Advancement, to deliver the oath of thanks and closing remarks.
Thank you, Angelina. Yeah, I'm just going to talk about my old association with the A.M.M Murugappa Research Center to start with. I finished my BTech in 1982, and this was the first job under C.V. Seshadri at Taramani. And he was my first guru in all senses of the word. We did a lot of high quality research work for the group at that time, including looking at substituting high quality sand for manufacturing silicon carbide. We designed the first commercial building with passive solar features, the A.M.M Annex. We also worked with the distilleries to help manage their waste, biological processes. We set up, of course, as you remember, the first algal factory in India, which is now run by Parry Nutraceuticals. Actually, at that time, Sri A.M.M Aurunachalam was also the board chairman of the Murugappa Research Center, MCRC, along with Mr. M.E. Murugappan. But then there were some instances that people may not be aware of when very early on the Murugappa Group companies worked with IIT Madras. In fact, Bhaskar might recollect that there was a factory at Nelikupam belonging to EID Parry. Mr. Raghunandan, who's now the CEO of MCRC, used the technology developed by Professor Bhaskar and Ashok on wireless in local loop codec technology. He used that to convert their 8-month schedule to a 10-month schedule by a just-in-time movement of farmers with their produce to the factory. And I believe today they've achieved something like 11 and a half months of production when the factory is running, Nelikupam. Then, while Mr. M.B. Murugappan was with us, he encouraged a technology along with the computer science department of IIT Madras, who used image recognition technology to look at chromatographs, which would help explain the requirement of fertilizer components for soil. It is a quick soil analysis technique that was collaborated on. And even now, there is a relationship between the Center for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship at IIT Madras with MCRC to help them take their technologies to market. So, the Murugappa Group and its leadership have always believed in using technology in innovative ways to create valuable products and to stay in close touch with the environment and population at large. I look at this naming of this auditorium as a great way to honor the past, present, and future interactions of the Institute with the Murugappa Group companies. I thank Mr. M.A. Alagappan and Mr. M.M. Murugappan for making this possible, and in their office, Mrs. Arasi helped move the papers. I thank her for her input. at IIT Madras, of course, Professor Bhaskar, Professor Ravindra Gettu, Professor V. Kamakoti, I think is not here, and Professor Mahesh, all the deans have also helped to bring this auditorium to the standard that we wanted to. Mr. Chidambaram, Chief Manager ICSR, Mr. Sudhakar, ICSR Halls Facility, they were all working very hard during the tough COVID times to make the auditorium into the shape it is now. Also, I thank all my colleagues in the Alumni and Corporate Relations Office. Thank you all, Murugappa Group family members, for having joined us here. I'll close with those remarks. Thank you very much again, Mr. Alagappan.
Thank you, Joe, sir. Thank you for explaining to all of us how the Murugappa family made use of the technology in innovative ways to stay in close touch with environment and people. Thank you all for gracing this occasion and those who have joined us virtually. We now request all to join us for tea and refreshment in the adjoining hall. Request Suman to lead all our guests to the dining hall. Thank you.
Good.